Space is silent. No alarms. No warnings. No sound at all. Just endless darkness filled with distant stars and unseen travelers moving through the void. For billions of years, Earth existed beneath this silent ocean of space, unaware that one day, something quiet and unstoppable was already on its way toward it. Long before humanity ever took its first breath, Earth was a completely different world. The continents were shaped differently, the climate was warmer and more extreme. Thick jungles spread across the land, and massive oceans covered most of the planet. This was the age of giants, the age of the dinosaurs. For over 160 million years, these enormous creatures ruled the land, sea, and sky without challenge. To them, Earth was eternal. Nothing threatened their dominance. Nothing suggested that their world could end in a single day. But far beyond the reach of sunlight, drifting through the cold darkness of space, a silent object had already begun its journey. Somewhere in the ancient asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, a massive rock was disturbed. Perhaps a collision with another space object knocked it from its stable path. Perhaps gravity itself slowly dragged it free. Whatever the cause, the result was inevitable. The object was sent racing through space at unimaginable speed. It had no fire, no glow, no intention. It simply moved. For millions of years, it traveled unnoticed through the darkness. It passed frozen planets, empty space, and the scattered debris of long-dead stars. Slowly, almost patiently, its path curved toward a small blue planet orbiting an average yellow star. Earth. From a distance, Earth looked peaceful, covered in clouds and oceans, full of life and movement. But the silent object did not see beauty. It did not see life. It only followed gravity. And gravity was pulling it home. On the final day before impact, the world continued as it had for millions of years. Giant herbivores grazed in vast open plains. Predators hunted in the shadows of dense forests. The seas were alive with monstrous marine reptiles, and enormous flying creatures ruled the skies. No animal looked up and sensed what was coming. No instinct warned them. Above the atmosphere, the object crossed the boundary into Earth's gravitational grip. As it fell faster and faster, friction ignited its surface. The night sky suddenly gained a second sun, a blinding fireball screaming through the heavens. But it was already too late. Impact. The collision happened near what is now the Yucatan Peninsula. In a fraction of a second, more energy was released than all the nuclear weapons ever built by humanity combined. The object smashed into Earth at over 20 kilometers per second. The force of the impact pierced deep into the crust, vaporizing rock instantly. A shock wave rippled outward at supersonic speed. Everything within thousands of kilometers was instantly destroyed. Forests were flattened. Oceans were pushed back as walls of water surged across continents. The ground itself behaved like liquid under the unimaginable force. Above the impact site, a towering plume of fire, dust, and molten rock blasted into space. Earth had been struck by something silent, and nothing would ever be the same again. Fire in the sky. Molten debris rained back down across the planet like a global meteor storm. Superheated fragments ignited forests thousands of kilometers away from the impact site. Wildfires erupted across nearly every continent at once. The sky turned red. The oceans boiled near coastlines. Animals that survived the initial blast faced a worse fate: searing heat, choking smoke, and a world that was rapidly becoming unlivable. But this was only the beginning. The long night begins. Within days, massive clouds of dust, ash, and sulfur filled the atmosphere. Sunlight became weak and distant, struggling to reach the surface. Temperatures dropped rapidly. Photosynthesis collapsed. Plants began to die. Without plants, herbivores starved. Without herbivores, predators followed. Food chains that had lasted for millions of years collapsed in a matter of weeks. Rain turning acidic poisoned rivers and oceans. The sky stayed dark. Day after day, the sun remained hidden behind a suffocating veil of debris. This was no longer the world of the dinosaurs. This was a dying planet. Extinction written in silence. Over the months and years that followed, more than 75% of all life on Earth vanished. Nearly every dinosaur species went extinct. The rulers of the planet erased without ever knowing why. Yet not all life died. Small mammals burrowed underground. Birds survived in scattered pockets. In the oceans, some creatures adapted to the collapsing ecosystem. Nature, even in catastrophe, found ways to endure. And in that survival, a new future quietly began. But that future would take millions of years to rise. A death that made room for humanity. The silent object did not just end the age of dinosaurs, it made space for something entirely different. Without the extinction, mammals would have remained small, hidden creatures in the shadows. Without the extinction, primates would never have evolved. Without the extinction, humanity would never exist. Every city, every civilization, every human heartbeat traces back to that single moment when a silent traveler from space collided with Earth. Destruction became creation. Death became destiny. This was only the first chapter of a much larger story, how Earth rebuilt itself from near-total collapse, and how the smallest survivors inherited a broken world. When the dust finally began to settle, Earth was no longer the vibrant world it once was. The skies that had remained dark for months slowly cleared, allowing weak sunlight to touch the surface again. What remained beneath that light was a planet scarred beyond recognition. Silent forests of ash, empty seas, and land reshaped by fire and flood. The age of giants was over. But extinction, as cruel as it is never the end of life itself. It is only the end of one chapter to make room for another. A broken world learns to breathe again. With most large animals gone, the world felt strangely empty. The familiar thunder of massive footsteps was replaced by silence. The once crowded plains lay abandoned. The oceans, once ruled by monstrous marine reptiles, became vast graveyards. Yet in hidden corners of the planet, life endured. Seeds buried beneath layers of ash began to sprout. Hardy plants slowly climbed back into the sunlight. Insects emerged first, followed by small reptiles, birds, and tiny mammals that had survived by hiding underground or feeding on whatever scraps remained. These mammals were not kings, they were not powerful. They were fragile, fast-breeding, and adaptable. And those traits would change everything. The rise of the small survivors. For millions of years, mammals had lived in the shadows of dinosaurs, small nocturnal creatures avoiding the daylight where predators ruled. After the extinction, those shadows disappeared. Suddenly, the world was wide open. With new massive dinosaurs left to dominate the land, mammals expanded rapidly into every available niche. Some grew larger, some became faster, some specialized in climbing, burrowing, swimming, or running across open ground. Evolution accelerated. Within a few million years, Earth looked entirely different. Vast herds of early mammals replaced dinosaurs on the plains. Predators evolved sharper senses and faster bodies. Forests returned, thicker than ever before. The planet was rebuilding itself from the ruins of cosmic destruction. A planet forever changed. Though life returned, Earth never fully forgot the impact. The climate shifted, the chemistry of the oceans changed permanently. Entire evolutionary branches were erased forever, leaving gaps that could never be filled again. The extinction reshaped the direction of life with absolute force. What had once been a reptile-dominated world became a mammal-dominated one.